Hello, my name is John, and today on Monostory we're going to be talking about One Piece's writing. So let's get into it and find out what it's all about.
One Piece は実在する!
One Piece, written by Eiichiro Oda, is one of the very well written stories, as it has lasted for such a long time in a magazine known as Shonen Jump. The story itself has a lot of beautiful elements, such as complex plot points and characters with their development. There's also a lot of very good world building, as well as character interactions and fights that are very unique specifically to One Piece. However, there are a few problems within the writing that cause a lot of issues for One Piece in regards to the readers of One Piece, or the anime manga community, and that has to do with very specific points such as wasted potential. And this is where Oda forgets to write a certain character in a certain arc to be more in the spotlight. So this would be things such as in Wano, why is Zoro not a bigger figure? In Egghead, Frankie, why is he not a bigger figure? And now in Elbaf, why is Usopp the one who wanted to go to Elbaf and become this brave warrior, acting against what he was originally intending to do? And for the most part, these new arcs post-time skip feel a lot more underwhelming compared to the pre-time skip arcs. And it feels like the stakes are getting higher, but there's also a lot of different things happening within one arc that aren't really fully explained or materialized in a way that would be not only beautiful to the reader, but also improve the story and make it what it once was. And what I mean by this is things such as when we found out what Loki's devil fruit was. I, as an individual, was very excited. The whole time I was waiting for this devil fruit revelation to come to realize it was just a dragon and it wasn't really spectacular. It felt anticlimactic to what it should have been. And it's these sorts of moments that make the story feel weaker than it could have been. The other very big problem with One Piece's writing is the idea of deletion. So Oda struggles with deleting his characters in an effective way. We obviously got this from the Alabasta arc, where we had a character known as Pell who literally took a bomb into the center of the sky and blew it up. And then he somehow just magically reappeared. And from then on, deletion in One Piece has been criticized because of its inability to be effective when it is necessary. So most fights are most likely going to have a character who doesn't get deleted, rather captured and sent to Impel Down, as an example. So in this case, we understand that most fights will have no form of deletion. And so when a character is deleted, it feels like a punch in the guts, because how can all these other characters survive, but yet these really important characters are deleted? And then in other times, some characters that should have been deleted somehow manage to survive. So it really is a wishy-washy choice sort of situation. And something that goes along these lines is the deletion of Whitebeard, Ace, and Pedro. These characters were very important in their arcs, especially Ace, who was the main center point of the Marineford arc. And it is through these deletions that we realize that deletion is possible in One Piece, but it is upon the very important characters within the story. Any other character generally is not going to be deleted, and so it really brings a sort of frustration, because how can a character survive when another character is deleted? And a very good situation to explain this would be Doflamingo. How is Doflamingo still alive after taking Gear 4 and now is in Impel Down? I have no idea. As good as a character he is, he should have been deleted. He just should have been deleted. So that would have given our understanding of the character and a good send-off to Doflamingo and his character arc. But now he's just sitting in a cell, and we don't know if he's going to be getting out. We don't know if he's just going to be there for comedic reasons. Whatever purpose he has just been deleted from the story. And so this all culminates with the recent revelation of the Domi Reversi, where a character who is in their homeland can be transformed into a slave of Imu. And we originally thought that this would be very difficult to change. However, after you cut the heads off of these characters, they are fully healed and returned back to normal like nothing happened. what was the point of the Domi Reversi? What was the point? Not only are you showing that this ability is a very bad ability or has a very easy weakness, but are you also showing that Imu, who has 800 years of somewhat experience dealing with this situation, has not changed his ability or find a way to stop the weakness in 800 years. What are you smoking, Oda? What's going on here? How can someone with 800 years of experience not know his own weakness to his own ability? You think when he fought Joy Boy, he would have realized his weakness of his own ability and would have found a way to either solve it, improved his strength, or come with a better, more efficient ability. Instead, you use this Domi Reversi that just got absolutely wiped in like a second. What a waste of an ability. And now you're making Imu look like he has no power whatsoever. So now, what can Oda do to solve these problems within the writing of One Piece and make it not only back to what it was pre-time skip, but make it something even better? Because it feels like Oda's gotten a little lazy with his writing. Even though it is getting more interesting with the story coming to its end potentially, there is more open-ended situations and, just as I said before, wasted potential. So what Oda could do firstly is make the Straw Hats more prevalent or important in the story. So right now, our main 3 Straw Hats that are very powerful within the story are Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy, and they are all 3 characters with Haki. Everyone else generally has maybe a little bit of Haki like Usopp, but other than that, they mostly don't. And so giving them Haki as well as a bigger potential in the story will allow the story to go back to what it once was. As pre-time skip, there were so many moments with Usopp and Frankie, even Robin, that made their characters so good, where now it's just everyone else is out there doing little fun things, and then Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy come in and just destroy everything, or they have help from another set of pirates, and essentially their captain will help, like for example Law or Kid, if you were to look at Wano as a perspective example. And so when we have these characters all coming together, we're still missing the Straw Hats being what they once were, and these characters again. Usopp is becoming more and more like the background comical relief, where if you remember back in pre-time skip, that Perona fight was amazing. That fight he also had at Arlong Park way back in the East Blue arc was absolute cinema. That was peak Usopp. That moment there is one of the best fights for him, and it's still, to this day, we're now 1,000 chapters in, one of the best fights for Usopp. And you could even look at the most recent fight for him that was very good, which was the God Usopp fight, where he stopped Sugar. That again, very good Usopp moment. And now we've just been getting him in the background, just following everyone else and screaming and being this scared person, where once Usopp was the mightiest warrior, also known as God Usopp with 5 stars. So Oda should look into that and make the Straw Hats back to what they once were. Next big point is about deletion. Make it stick. Don't make it look like some form of party trick, like, oh, someone got deleted. Ha! Joke's on you, we got them back again. They were just knocked out. Ha ha ha! Yeah, really funny, Oda, except for now it makes it look like everyone can just survive a Gum Gum Rocket or whatever Gear 5 Luffy does, or some Zoro 9 Swords attack, or the Jambles from Sanji. Everyone can just survive these things because that's just One Piece logic. Thank you, Oda. Instead of just deleting the character and showing that deletion is real, highering the stakes of fights. And another big point, and probably the biggest, is stop showing Imu as a weak character. Every time I see him, I feel like he's getting weaker and weaker. And now with these Domi Reversi shenanigans, he now even looks like a weak character. All his abilities have no bite to them. They're all just for show. Yes, I understand when Sabo went to go save the King of Alabasta, yeah, we saw some real powerful Imu abilities, as well as when King Harold couldn't control himself and got possessed by Imu and started deleting everybody. Again, that's a very strong power. But if you do stuff like this with the Domi Reversi, it just weakens those abilities, because it means that there might be a weakness that everyone should know about that is about as basic as watering your plants. So figure it out, Oda, and stop doing that to your most powerful villain in the story. The one that is going to basically be the final boss of One Piece.
なぜ止める?
And that is my thoughts on One Piece's writing. And in the past, it was quite good, the writing. That is what made One Piece what it is today. But now it's gotten very basic and anticlimactic. Things, again, such as Loki's forms, we're talking Wano's mixed bag of story writing, and even Egghead when the elders came and it still didn't do enough for the story. It made it feel like it was an anticlimactic situation. And it all culminates with the fact that every single time something new happens, it feels like it's a rehash of what has already happened in One Piece, and it just feels like we're just retreading old ground, and nothing new is really happening, and it's quite boring at some points. I feel like I don't want to read next week because nothing's really happening. We're going nowhere. Nothing is changing in the story as much, and it's just adding and adding and adding without having any form of high stakes. At best, the library being burnt was the biggest thing, as well as maybe the children being in thorns being pushed off the mountain. That wasn't really that high stakes, to be fair, because they were walking for like 20 billion years. So at this point, I just feel like all of it needs to be more shortened and more hype, more interesting than what it is at the moment. Additionally, bringing back the Straw Hats and making them the forefront of the story, as well as improving the concept of deletion and making it less of a party trick and more of something that has actual weight. So when there is a fight and someone actually will get deleted, then that makes the fight have higher stakes. So that is, look, my conclusion on One Piece's writing. But I want to hear what you think about One Piece's writing. Is it good or bad, and why? So please write that down in the comment section below. My name is John from Mono Story. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, and pressed the bell button, please do so. If you want to watch another video, please click up above. If not, until next time, I will see you on another Mono Story.